Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm John Lavager, Senior Director of Learning Solutions here at TTA, and I'm excited to have you with us for a topic that couldn't be more timely. Fight the undermanagement epidemic, how to build a culture of strong leadership. So we all know that strong leadership is the backbone of any successful organization, but what's often overlooked is just how common undermanagement really is and how much it holds teams back. Whether you're seeing managers stuck in constant firefighting mode or struggling to provide the clear, consistent coaching their teams need, today's session will shed light on what's really happening beneath the surface and, more importantly, how to fix it. I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker, Bruce Tulgan. Bruce is the founder of Rainmaker Thinking and one of the world's leading experts on management and leadership in the workplace. For more than 30 years, he's been researching what the best leaders do differently, working with organizations of all sizes to strengthen leadership practices from the ground up. Bruce is also the best-selling author of numerous books, including It's Okay to Be the Boss and his newest book, The Art of Being Indispensable at Work. Today, Bruce will be sharing eye-opening insights and practical strategies to help you recognize and break the cycle of undermanagement in your own organization so you can build a culture of strong, engaged leadership at every level. Bruce, we're honored to have you with us. I will turn it over to you.
John, thank you so much for the very kind introduction. Thanks to everybody at TTA, Maria Melfa, Eliza, John, thanks to Chris for facilitating here. And thanks to everybody for giving me some of your time this morning. They give me just about an hour. Talk with you about today is an issue we've been tracking for more than 25 years. The undermanagement epidemic. Undermanagement is hiding in plain sight in almost every organization all over the world. Anywhere there are leaders, managers, and supervisors and employees, there's undermanagement. Now, micromanagement has become a household word, right? Micromanagement is the dreaded disease that everybody seeks to avoid. Well, I wouldn't want to be a micromanager, but micromanagement is actually extremely rare in the real world. In fact, anytime you see somebody micromanaging, it's probably undermanagement in disguise. Undermanagement is a mountain where micromanagement is just a mole. What is undermanagement? It's when leaders, managers, and supervisors are just not doing enough leading, managing, and supervising. In particular, they're not providing high structure, high substance guidance, direction, support, and coaching. They're not having meaningful team huddles. They're not having enough meaningful one-on-ones. They're not drilling down. They're not tuning in to each person. They're not spelling out expectations, tracking performance, and solving problems. They're not practicing the fundamentals of leadership, management, and supervision. When leaders, managers, and supervisors fail to practice the fundamentals, it costs everybody. And there are 8 costs of undermanagement. Problems occur that didn't have to occur. Problems get out of control that should have been solved easily. Resources are squandered and they have to be recouped. People go in the wrong direction for days, weeks, or months on end before anybody realizes it. And then follows rework. Low performers hide out and collect paychecks. Mediocre performers mistake themselves for high performers. High performers get frustrated and think about leaving. And leaders, managers, and supervisors have a hard time. Way too many leaders, managers, and supervisors just think, I might as well just do this myself. It's easier than trying to delegate it to someone else. Those are the costs of undermanagement, and it's costing most organizations a fortune, and it's hiding in plain sight. That's what I want to talk with you about this morning. Before I say anything else, let me just say that everything I'm going to share with you today comes from what is now 32 years of research on the front lines of the workplace. Everything we do at Rainmaker Thinking is based on research. More than 500,000 people have participated in our surveys, interviews, focus groups, and seminars from more than 400 organizations over the last 32 years. Some of these interviews last a couple of hours, but many of these interviews have lasted years on end. And thousands of our interviews have lasted 10 years or longer. And our number one finding after 32 years, it's getting harder to manage people. Work is getting more and more high pressure, and the workforce is getting more and more high maintenance. And the problem is most leaders, managers, and supervisors are so busy doing their own tasks, responsibilities, and projects, and struggling with all the high pressure work and maybe struggling with the high maintenance workforce, way too many leaders err on the side of hands off. Way too many leaders are disengaged. It became very common to ask a number of years ago, are your employees engaged? Now, that's an important question. But I think the real question you should be asking is, are your managers engaged with your employees so that your employees have no choice but to be engaged with their work? Highly engaged management is what the evidence shows works. High structure, high substance team huddles. High structure, high substance one-on-ones. High structure, high substance written communication by text or email. But most leaders, managers, and supervisors err on the side of hands off, hands off, hands off until something goes wrong. Now, most leaders, they touch base. How's everything going? Everything on track? Any problems I should know about? Most leaders, they tell folks, hey, my door is always open, or I'm just a phone call away. I think leaders should say, hey, later on when I'm in the middle of something really important at the least convenient time possible, could you please interrupt me? Because that's what happens. We interrupt each other all day long. And of course, we're drowning in each other's electronic communications all day long. And so when I talk with leaders, managers, and supervisors, and I'll say to them, look, there's only one tool for leading people, communication. And a lot of times leaders, they get this look of relief. Oh, thank goodness. I communicate with my people all day, every day. Yeah, there's a lot of communication. The problem is most of it is not doing the work. Most of the communication is touching base. How's everything going? Is everything on track? Are there any problems I should know about? Those are the three most common questions managers ask their direct reports. The problem is those questions tell you almost nothing, and they send a powerful message that you're busy. How's everything going? What I'm looking for there is just fine. Everything on track? What I'm looking for there is, any problems I should know about? What I'm looking for there is, it's under control, right? And then, of course, hey, let me know later if you need me. So you can interrupt me later on when I'm in the middle of something really important at the least convenient time possible. That is what stands in for communication in most workplaces. Until, of course, something goes terribly wrong and the building's on fire. Right? How many managers spend way too much of their management time firefighting, right? Solving problems that never should have happened in the first place. How many managers spend way too much time solving problems that never should have happened in the first place, where those problems get out of control, or resources are squandered, or people go in the wrong direction and have to do rework, where low performers hide out, mediocre performers mistake themselves for high performers get frustrated and think about leaving, managers are afraid to delegate. That is the undermanagement epidemic in a nutshell. And when I tell leaders, managers, and supervisors, hey, you do not need some newfangled approach. You do not need some flavor of the month. What you need is to get back to the fundamentals, high structure, high substance communication. That's what you need. And a lot of times leaders will nod when I say that. They'll nod and smile when I say it. Oh yeah, you're right. High structure, high substance communication. Yeah, of course that would be better than unstructured communication lacking in substance. And I'll say to managers, why don't you do it? And I say, listen, I don't have time for this. A nice idea, Bruce, but I don't have time. Not only that, well, maybe I'm not a natural leader. Maybe I'm an engineer. I'm an accountant. I'm a fill in the blank. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I'm a fill in the blank. But maybe I'm not a natural leader. And so it just doesn't come naturally to me. And anyway, I've gotten in there and tried to manage people before, and I got in trouble. The HR police took me away in red tape. And then I really didn't want to do that again. And anyway, we have a small organization, or we have a big organization, or we have a technical organization, or we have a non-technical organization. Whatever it is, it's going to be tough for me, right? And I don't want to have difficult confrontations at work. If I'm all about the work, people are going to push back. Maybe people will think I'm a jerk. If I get in there and start trying to manage people, pretty soon you figure out what works with one person doesn't work with another person. And all of a sudden, Mr. Blue's saying, you're picking on me and you're favoring red. Well, I don't want to deal with that. And anyway, we were supposed to empower. Aren't we supposed to empower people? This is what leaders, managers, and supervisors tell us when we go into organizations and perform assessments, try to figure out what's happening behind the scenes. What is the state of the undermanagement epidemic in their organization? This is what leaders tell us. And these are the 7 great myths that prevent leaders in the real world from being strong. I'll get to those myths after we talk to Marissa. Marissa Thomas, do you have a question? You have your hand raised.
No,
Marissa?
I don't. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay. It looked like you had your hand raised. Okay. Star Jackson has a hand raised. Star, do you have a hand raised?
If you do have a question, you can either raise your hand and I will give you that permission to be able to talk, or you can type those questions into the chat and I'll read them out loud for you, whichever you prefer.
All right. Well, while we're waiting to get questions coming in, let me share with you the 7 most common myths that prevent real leaders in the real world from being strong. The number 1 myth is the myth of empowerment. Now, don't get me wrong. The myth is not that you should empower people. Of course you should empower people. The myth is that somehow the way to empower people is to leave them alone to manage themselves. That somehow if people are left alone to figure things out on their own, then they'll do their best work. But see, sink or swim is not empowerment. It's negligence. Reinvent the wheel is not empowerment. It's negligence. Hey, do it however you think it should be done, even though it's not up to you, is not empowerment. It's negligence. That's false. I'm sorry, but real empowerment takes hard work. Real empowerment is a contact. Real empowerment requires leaders, managers, and supervisors and their team huddles and make sure their team members are planning for their participation in team huddles. Real empowerment requires managers to plan their one-on-ones and make sure their team members are planning for one-on-ones. Real empowerment requires managers to impose some discipline when it comes to written communication. Real empowerment is about making priorities clear, making ground rules clear, making marching orders clear every step of the way. Real empowerment is not about how's everything going? Is everything on track? Are there any problems I should know about? Real empowerment is about what did you do? How did you do it? Let's take a look together. Real empowerment is about what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Show me your plan. Let's talk it through. Empowerment is not talking. Real empowerment is a dialogue. Don't fall for the myth of empowerment. Now, the number 2 myth is the myth of fairness. And again, the myth is not that you should be fair. Of course you should be fair. The myth is that somehow the way to be fair is to treat everybody exactly the same. But that's only fair if you're running a commune. And if you're running a commune, God bless you, that's fine. But if you're running a business, the way to be fair is to give everybody the opportunities. Give everybody the opportunities. And then do more for some people and less for others based on what they deserve. Everybody perform, but treating high performers and low performers the same, that is profoundly unfair. And fair is to recognize that everybody's a special case and then figure out what makes them a special case and figure out where are they coming from? Where are they going? What do you need from them? What do they need from you? That's why one-on-one dialogue is the key to back to fundamentals lead, because everybody's different. What works with one person may not always work with another person. By the way, take those 2 myths and put them together. The myth of empowerment and the myth of fairness. False empowerment, false fairness thinking. Hey, let's leave everybody alone to figure things out on their own and work however they feel like working. And then let's treat everybody exactly the same. Who benefits from that? Who benefits from that? The answer is low performers, and they're the only ones. Only ones who want to be left alone and treated like everybody else are low performers who are hiding out. High performers, and anyone who wants to be a high performer, wants a boss who knows who they are, knows what they're doing, is in a position to help them do more, better, faster, help them avoid unnecessary problems, and help them earn more for themselves and their families. Practice real empowerment. Set up for success. Make expectations clear every step of the way. And practice real fairness. Keep track of who's going the extra mile. Keep track of who's digging in their heels. And treat those extra milers accordingly. Nobody needs a weak boss. And anyone who wants a weak boss is probably a low performer who's hiding out. Practice real empowerment and real fairness. Then don't fall for the myth of the jerk boss. The 3rd big myth is the myth of the jerk boss. Well, if I'm a strong leader, everyone's going to think I'm a jerk. The reality is, if you take low performers out of the equation, then you ask people, hey, tell us about your worst bosses. Right? In our interviews, we ask people, tell us about your best boss. Tell us about your bosses who are not so good. And when people start talking about their jerk bosses, their very worst bosses, sometimes they use even less polite terms than jerk, but I don't curse in public. So we just call them the jerk boss scenarios. And there are 5 common jerk boss scenarios if you take the low performers out of the equation. Are you ready? Here are the 5 most common jerk boss scenarios. Please forgive me if you recognize yourself in any of these. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But here are the 5 most common jerk boss scenarios. Number 5, this is the boss who doesn't keep track of who's doing what, where, why, when, and how. This is the boss who doesn't really know who's doing what, where, why, when, and how, but shows up on the scene every once in a while and makes a big decision that affects everyone. It's going to make you seem like a jerk. Not because you're so strong that you can make decisions without good information, but because you were too weak to get the information you needed to make the right decision. Number 4, this is the boss who pretends things are up to people when they're not. Hey, take a crack at it. Do it however you think it should be done. Use your own judgment because that's been going so well. Do it however you think it should be done, even though it's not up to you. Boss comes back a day later, a week later, a month later, says, well, what are you doing? Didn't you know we have a checklist for that? And I promise you that person's sitting there thinking, hey, why didn't you give me the checklist in the first place? You think I wanted to waste time trying to sink or swim or reinvent the wheel when there's a checklist? That's going to make you seem like a jerk. Number 3 jerk boss scenario. This is the boss who lets small problems slide because you wouldn't want to come down on every small problem. But it's no favor to somebody to let them fail. How long should you let them fail? How long is that a favor? Oh yeah, you just get to fail for a while. That's no favor. And see, small problems turn into bigger problems. And maybe by the time it gets back on your radar screen, it may be a very big problem with very real consequences. And then, by then, you have to deal with it, right? This problem's gotten out of control. I got it up to here. And that person's like, well, gosh, I've been doing this for 3 months or 3 years, right? Why didn't you say something? And the manager's like, well, didn't you notice all my hints and dirty looks? People are like, well, I'm not a mind reader. How am I supposed to know? That's going to make you seem like a jerk. You got to solve small problems before they turn into big problems. No problem is so small that you should let somebody just fail in plain sight. Let them keep failing. The number 2 jerk boss scenario, this is the boss who pretends to be your friend even when they're not. Now, don't get me wrong. You work with people for days, weeks, months, or years, you become friends. But see, if you're in charge of somebody and you're also that person's friend, that can be a real complication. That can really get in the way of holding people accountable. But that's not what I'm talking about. Now, I'm talking about the manager who doesn't know how to build rapport by talking about the work that needs to get done. So they try to shoot the breeze. They try to pretend to be your friend. Hey, how was your weekend? I understand you got a bike. I was thinking about getting a bike. Now, again, I'm not saying there's never any time to shoot the breeze. But don't tell me you've got time to shoot the breeze, but you don't have time to talk about the work. Because when you shoot the breeze, you build false rapport. And that false rapport goes right out the window when the work goes wrong. By the way, if you have a real friend at work and you let the work go wrong, this is how they feed their family, this is their career, that's a great way to damage a real friendship. To protect a real friendship is to make sure the work goes right. And the way to build rapport with people at work is talk with them about what you have in common. The work. Talk about the work. That makes the work go better. And that is real rapport that won't go out the window. The number 1 jerk boss scenario, you already know what it is, right? This is the boss who soft pedals his or her authority, soft pedal, soft pedal, soft pedal, hands off, hands off, hands off. Don't call me your boss. We're colleagues. So things go wrong, and then they go in and chew someone out, or they call someone up and chew them out. Probably the wrong person at the wrong time about the wrong thing. And then they go back to work thinking, I just did me some managing. But chewing somebody out isn't managing. There's nothing strong about a tantrum. Some managers don't even have the guts to have a tantrum, right? They get passive aggressive. Good morning. Is it? Hey, did I do something wrong? I don't know. Did you? It is shocking how many managers wait until things have gone wrong and they're angry before they have important conversations with their direct report. Like they don't have time and they don't have the guts until things have really gone wrong. And then they're fired up on anger. Have you ever tried arguing with a drunk? You know why you can't convince a drunk of anything? It's because they're drunk. Problem is that anger is a drug. Anger comes from your amygdala, and then it surges brain chemicals, and then it gets into your endocrine system and surges glucocorticoids. So when you're angry, you're drunk on anger. When you're super frustrated, you're drunk on anger. And so many managers, they wait until things go wrong and they're drunk on anger to go have important conversations with their direct reports. So everywhere I go, I say to folks, what's your number 1 asset? People are our number 1 asset. So how do you manage them? Well, mostly I'm winging it. And then, every once in a while things go wrong. So I get wasted on anger and then go yell at someone. Don't fall for the myth of the jerk boss. That's going to make you seem like a jerk. You want to make sure that you don't seem like a jerk. Make sure you keep track of what's going on so you make good decisions. Make it clear to people every step of the way what's up to them and what's not. Solve small problems before they turn into big problems. Build rapport with people by talking about the work that needs to get done. In high structure, high substance team huddles, one-on-ones, and written communication. And be strong before anything goes right, wrong, or average. Be strong, patient, consistent, thorough. That's the kind of strength people need. Back to fundamentals. The fundamentals are all you need. Don't fall for the myth of the jerk boss. Don't be a jerk, be strong. Now, the number 4 myth is the myth of the difficult confrontation, and it's a close cousin of number 3. And that is people think, well, if I'm strong, then people are going to push back. If I'm strong, people are going to argue. If I'm strong, I'm going to have confrontations at work. That's why all these books, Fierce Conversations, Crucial Conversations, have sold a zillion copies, because most managers don't have enough ordinary conversations before anything goes right, wrong, or average. If you don't have ordinary conversations before anything goes right, wrong, or average, by the time you have a conversation, you're going to be frustrated and angry. They're going to be frustrated and angry. By then, it's too late. Things have gone wrong that they never had to go wrong in the first place. Of course, those are going to be difficult conversations. But one of the things we ask managers every single day is, what's the hardest thing for you about managing people? What's the hardest thing for you about managing people? The number 2 answer is giving people negative feedback when they haven't done what they think they've done. Well, why are those conversations so difficult, right? Probably because you haven't made expectations clear along the way. You haven't been keeping track along the way. You haven't been having ordinary conversations to point people in the right direction systematically every step of the way. So when things go wrong, this is like the manager who says, well, my people know if something goes wrong, then they'll hear from. That's you. That means every time they see you coming, it's bad news. Every time they see you coming, it's bad news. It's bad news leadership. You show up and say something went wrong, and they say, well, you didn't make it clear. And you think, gosh, maybe I didn't make it clear. You didn't have all the facts. Maybe I don't have all the facts. This isn't fair. Gosh, maybe it isn't fair. And you haven't built up rapport with that person by talking about the work. So of course, those conversations are doomed to be difficult. It'd be like if you were really out of shape, and then every 8 weeks you tried to go for a 10-mile run. You come limping back. Ouch, that hurt. Wow, that doesn't feel good. Oh my gosh, I'm never doing that again. But see, if you really wanted to get in shape, what do? You take a walk every day. You eat your vegetables. You get a good night's sleep. You do your push-ups. The fundamentals are what's missing in 9 out of management relationships. Take a walk every day. That just means have high structure, high substance conversations before anything goes right, wrong, or average. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Let's look at your plan. Oh, you don't have a plan? Let's make a plan. Hey, show me your standard operating procedures. Oh, you don't have standard operating procedures? Let's make a checklist. Right? What are you going to do today, tomorrow, this week? What are you going to do if something gets in your way? Those are ordinary conversations. And those, you take a walk every day, you're going to get in shape. That's how you get in shape as a leader. That's how you help your direct reports get in shape as followers. Get them in the habit of having these conversations with you, of thinking through the work with you. It's not a one-way conversation. It's a dialogue. It's a dialogue. And the more ordinary conversations you have, the fewer difficult confrontations you'll ever have to have. Don't fall for the myth of the difficult confrontation. Now, the number 5 myth is the myth of the HR police. I don't know if I have any HR folks on here, but if you're on here, God bless you. HR people are my people. And, this is the manager who says, well, I would do this stuff, but HR won't let me. I've tried to do this stuff, but I got in trouble with HR. Jennifer Severson, HR peep here, right on. This is the manager who blames HR. They hide behind the HR police. Oh, I'm not allowed to do that. And I always say to managers, have you ever called HR to say, hey, Ms. Red is doing a great job. I got to advocate to get something extra for Ms. Red. Or Mr. Blue's doing a bad job. I got to get Mr. Blue off the team. Have you ever called HR for help? And people are always like, oh, yeah, I've called HR for help. What's the first thing they say when you call HR? Yeah, I got to get rid of this guy, Mr. Blue. What's the first thing they say when you call HR? Have you been documenting performance? And that's when you're like, I'll call you back in 6 months. And then you say to Mr. Blue, 6 months, buddy, you're out of here. See, because HR is there to help you, but these are human beings. This is their career and livelihood. You do have to dot your I's and cross your T's. That's just part of the fundamental. I mean, have you ever been the one to call HR and you say, I got to get rid of this guy, Mr. Blue? And they say, have you been documenting performance? And you say, of course, I've been documenting performance. I keep detailed contemporaneous notes about all my interactions with all my direct reports. I keep them in a notebook in my back pocket. At the end of each day, I transfer those notes to a database. Which version would you like, HR? Do you know what happens in HR if you say that? They press the mute button on the phone and they go, and then bells and whistles go off and they have a pizza party. Because if you do that part of your job, your eyes, cross your T, then HR can help you. Don't blame HR. Get an ally in HR. Get a strategic partner. When should you document performance? Think of it. In the real world, when most people document performance is once somebody has demonstrated a track record of failure, right? Somebody is losing. Now they're really, oh yeah, that person's a loser. Now I'm going to start keeping score for them. I'm going to start documenting like crazy. Why do we wait for somebody to start losing before we start keeping score for them? You know, the idea of a performance improvement plan, right? It's considered a punishment. Oh, now that I know you're a loser, I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan. See, think of in professional sports or senior executives who have coaches, right? They're valuable. Coaching isn't for losers. Coaching is for winners. Documenting performance is just how you keep score. When you're trying to help someone, you should be tracking performance every step of the way. Performance improvement. Sign me up. That's for winners. What elite performers have in common is they're always trying to get better. And if they're lucky with the help of a coach, that's the relationship leaders should be building. Now, look, the people on this call, probably you're the best leaders in your organization or you wouldn't be on this call. The question is, where in your chain of command is this breaking down? Where are managers undermanaging? And what is it costing you? And one of the things every day is you should be track of performance every. You should take down when you reiterate ground rules. This week, you should write it down, and you should get your direct reports to write it down too. Taking notes sends a powerful message. It tells the employee they're important and their work is important, and it tells them you care. It tells them they matter and you're keeping track. You got to keep track and writing, not just to help HR help you. But number one, if you're going to be a strong, highly engaged leader, you're going to have a lot to keep track of. You better write stuff down. Number two, if you're keeping track and writing every time you meet with that person, right? Every time you meet with that person, you have a good place to pick up the conversation wherever you left off. Number three, if you're tracking performance, then when they say, well, that's not what you said, you say, oh, you know, that's what I said. See, I wrote it down. Maybe you should write it. And then, of course, if you need help from your boss or from HR, if you've been tracking performance, then you're not going to need 6 months. Also, my view is that tracking performance, taking notes when you're is a shows that you're paying attention and that the conversation matters. Don't blame HR. Get an ally, get a strategic partner in HR, and a whole new world will open up to you. And the number 6 myth is the myth of the natural leader. Well, I do all this, but I'm not a natural leader. Gosh, I wish I were a natural leader. And look, the reality is in the real world, most people move into positions of supervisory responsibility because they're very good at something, not necessarily because they're good at managing people. Right? You've been around for a while, you're good at your job, you've demonstrated some professional responsibility, a little bit of savvy, right? It doesn't look like you're going anywhere anytime soon. So we keep giving you more and more work. And as we give you more and more work, we got to give you people. So we put you in charge of some people. And way too often, we teach you how to do some extra paperwork, but nobody ever teaches you how to do the people work. So what do? You figure it out on your own. You do what you've seen before. You do what your manager did. And way too often, the default presumption is hands off, hands off, hands off, hands off until something goes wrong. I'm going to empower them and be fair. I'm going to leave them alone and treat them like everybody else. Wouldn't want them to think I'm a jerk. I don't want any difficult confrontations here. And so the only time you manage is when things are going wrong. It's bad news. But look, if you happen to be one of those natural leaders who can light the fire in somebody's belly, God bless you. That's a gift from God. The bad news is you still have to learn the basics of management, because what's missing for most people is leaders who spend time not lighting the fire in their belly, but clarifying priorities if there's not enough time, clarifying ground rules, spelling out expectations, problem solving, resource planning, helping them manage interdependency. That's what most people really need. And I think some people who do what I do make this myth worse, because, you move into a position of responsibility because you're good at your job. Nobody teaches you how to do the people work. We teach you how to do some paperwork, and then we send you sometimes, every once in a while, we send you to a seminar. Some guy like me gets up there and says, okay, seek to understand their deep inner motivations, light the fire in their belly, praise them no matter what they do, their area of passion and strength, and help them find a best friend at work. And I think most real managers in the real world hear that stuff and think, gosh, maybe that's just not me. Seek to understand their deep inner motivations? I'm not qualified to do that. And I don't think it's any of my business. Light the fire in their belly. Well, gee, if I could do that, I'd open a church or start a cult or something. That's a tall order, lighting the fire in somebody else's belly. Have them work only in their area of passion and strength. But who's going to do all the work? Praise them no matter what they do. What if they do it wrong? That can't be right. Help them find a best friend at work. That's my favorite. It came out of the Gallup Q12 study. I have asked thousands and thousands and thousands of people, do you want your boss to help you find a best friend at work? So far, it's unanimous. No, thanks. I have friends. I want my boss to help me get the work done so I can go home. I want my boss to help me avoid unnecessary problems so I don't have to solve unnecessary problems. You don't need to be a natural leader to learn to practice high structure, high substance communication, to have good team huddles and good one-on-ones, to make expectations clear. All a skill is a technique that you practice over and over and over again until you get good at it. And the techniques are clear. Well, plan your team huddles, plan your one-on-ones, teach your people to plan for their participation. And start having those conversations. Make sure they know exactly what's expected of them. And you'll get better and better and better at it. I have 2 proof points that anyone can learn the fundamentals and you don't have to be a natural leader. One is at the highest end of the skill spectrum. We've done a lot of work over the years with Sandia and Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos, the 3 main nuclear weapons research laboratories in the United States. And what's interesting about those places is like half the people there have PhDs in nuclear science. Many of them have 2 PhDs. Are you with me? Like, they're peculiar, and they're usually not people. Scientists can learn to have high structure, high substance team huddles and one-on-ones. Anyone can. If they can learn to ask, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Show me your plan. Let's talk through the work. Anyone can do it. The other example is from the lower end of the skill spectrum. Our number 1 client since 1995 has been the United States Armed Forces. And I love learning from the military. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute you turn your outfit into a military style outfit. But my friends in the military like to say, we have a lot of extraordinary people, but mostly we have ordinary people. It's just that we get extraordinary performance out of them all day, every day. How do they do that? Train. That's how they do that. The military is a culture of constant training, and it is the greatest leadership training academy in the history of the world. I'll use the Marines as an example. You show me a 19-year-old kid who's been in the Marines for 18 months, all of a sudden is in charge of a fire team, the lowest level of leadership in the Marine Corps, 3 Marines. And I will show you a better manager than 90% of managers in the private sector. Why? Well, they have a patriotic mission, sure, but you all have a mission. Well, they wear uniforms. Sure, they wear uniforms. Hoorah, indeed. Sure, they wear uniforms. That helps. Well, you can make people do push-ups in the sand at 4 a.m. That helps a lot, actually. And in my view, there is absolutely no downside to push-ups. I cannot think of a single downside to push-ups. But the real secret of military leadership is they don't put anyone in charge of anyone without teaching the leaders how to lead. Try to teach them to light the fire in someone's back. They teach young Marine leaders, take care of your Marines. You make sure you get them in a huddle and make sure everyone knows you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. We're going to meet back here in 3 hours, Marine. Are you with me? You grab your Marines one by one. Here's what I want you to do, Marine. I want you to do A, B, C, D. Are you sure, Marine? Do you understand? Write that down. Write that down right now. I'll meet you back here in 3 hours. They solve problems before they turn big because big problems kill people. Lives are on the line. So they have to solve small problems before they turn into big problems. They have to do their resource planning. They can't afford to waste resources. 19-year-old kids, right? It's not just the patriotic mission. It's not just that they can make people do push-ups. It's that they're practicing the fundamentals. Best coaching style leaders in the world. They're not referees. You're out. Foul ball. No, they're coaches. They're trying to make sure everybody gets on base. You're not the referee, you're the coach. And your job is to tune into each person, practice situational leadership. Your job is to figure out, what does this person need to hear from me? Or what questions should I be asking them? One of the greatest frontline Marine rules that they teach Marines is, what do I know? Who else needs to know? Have I told them yet? It's a dialogue. It's not enough for you to go, people think of Marine leaders as barking orders. They're coaching and they're asking questions. And everybody is thinking, what do I know? Who else needs to know? Have I told them? So the information is flowing up and down the chain of command. Preach it indeed. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this, and God bless them and keep them safe, because there are American troops in harm's way right now. You don't need to be a natural leader. You just need to practice the fundamentals. By the way, the other secret of military leadership is they don't just teach the leaders how to lead. They teach the followers how to follow. Imagine trying to lead a Marine who didn't go through boot camp. They have this little onboarding program, 13 weeks, 24 hours a day. It works like a charm. I challenge every one of you to ask, how are you teaching your direct reports how to do their part in the working relationship, how to prepare for one-on-ones and team huddles, how to send information up the chain of command. God, teach people how to do their part. It's not just teaching the leaders how to lead, it's teaching the followers how to follow it. Not for nothing, one of my books is called It's Okay to Manage Your Boss. It's a large part about that. The Art of Being Indispensable at Work, it's in large part about that. The fundamentals, there's so much juice in the fundamentals, and that's where we need to focus. And if you're a trainer, if you're a leader in an organization, mark my words, the more you make sure that nobody's in charge of anyone without teaching the leaders how to lead and the followers how to follow. Nobody needs to be a natural leader. They just need to practice the fundamentals. Now, the number 7 myth is the myth of time. The myth of time. And again, the myth isn't that you don't have enough time. You do not have enough time. The myth is that if you don't have enough time, you don't have time to lead. But the reality is, if you don't have enough time, that means you don't have time not to lead. Right? There's 168 hours in a week. Let's say you sleep 56 of them. That leaves you 112 hours. Let's say it takes you time on the road to get back and forth to work, maybe 12 hours, so you got 100 hours. You probably groom, so you got 95 hours. Maybe you got a family you want to spend time with. Let's say you got 85 hours a week to work. You still don't have enough time. Only way to make more time is to leverage the productive capacity of other people and help everybody avoid unnecessary problems. Remember, if you don't manage upfront in advance before anything goes right, wrong, or average, things go wrong. Problems get out of control. Resources are squandered. People go in the wrong direction. All that takes so much time. If you put the time up front, you will save the time later. It's like if you take a walk every day. Nobody has time to work out, but then some people do, and they're going to live longer. Right? They're going to get the time back. Take a walk every day, you're going to live longer. I know some people get hit by a bus, and then you think, "Drat, I wasted all that time exercising." But you can't get, you can't plan for getting hit by a bus. You got to take a walk every day. You will get the time back later. You got to manage people up front in advance. Set them up for success. We've also done a lot of work with the Park Service. I'm always bragging about how we work with the military. It's, the thing I'm most proud of. But we've also worked with the Park Service quite a bit. And I love going abroad to other countries and telling foreigners about America's most famous park ranger, who of course is a talking bear. And, usually they're a little bit dubious until some American in the audience starts nodding and saying, "That's true. There's a talking bear who's a very famous park ranger." I'm talking about Smokey. And Smokey's famous for saying a lot of things. One of the things he's famous for saying is, "It's a whole lot easier to prevent a fire than it is to put one out." The guy's a genius, and he's a bear. I call it the Smokey the Bear rule. Management up front is fire prevention. Don't fool yourself. you don't have time not to do it. And I bet the people on this call are the best managers, right? How about the people who report to you, and the people who report to the people who report to you, and the people who report to the people who report to the people who report to you? That's who you've got to audit and make sure that you're practicing the fundamentals too. I'm going to try to leave time for thoughts, comments, and questions here, but I also want you to know, if you have a question, my email address is brucet@rainmakerthinking.com. And also TTA is going to send out a survey, and they're going to offer you more information. And if you send an email or respond, we'll probably send you some stuff. And so I do want to leave time for questions, but I also want to give you the 8 steps back to the fundamentals. I've been hinting at them the whole time. Step 1, get in the habit of managing people up front in advance, every step of the way. High structure, high substance team huddles, high structure, high substance one-on-ones. How often should you have one-on-ones? Every week, every other week, minimum. Mark my words, if somebody's interrupting you all the time, they need more of your time one-on-one. Have them prepare in writing, you prepare in writing. Step 2, practice situational leadership. Is this person at work? Why? Person needs you right now. What should you be talking to this person right now about? How should you talk to this person? Where and when? It's the most powerful situational leadership tool in the world. Who, why, what, how, where, when. I promise you can remember those questions. And anytime you're getting ready to have a meeting with somebody, just ask and answer those questions. And if you don't have the answers, then you've been way too hands-off. Over time, you'll tune into that person and customize your approach. Step 3, talk like a teacher or a coach. That means your job is to help them get on base. Your job is to help them hit home runs. Your job is to break things down and spell things out. Describe, describe, describe. And the punchline is always next steps. Step 4, make accountability a process, not a slogan. And all that means is get people in the habit of giving you an account of their performance. It doesn't mean punishing wrongdoers. Wrongdoers should definitely be punished. Sometimes people say, well, people should hold themselves accountable. How am I doing? Pretty good. It's ridiculous. The whole idea of accountability is knowing you're going to have to give an account to someone else. And when you're in regular structured dialogue with your boss and they're spelling out expectations and you're making commitments, accountability is just knowing you're going to have to come back and say, I made a commitment. Did I meet that commitment? Step 5, make expectations clear every step of the way, not just broad performance standards, but expectations. Broad performance standards are from now on. Expectations are today, tomorrow, and this week. Step 6, track performance every step of the way. Step 7, solve small problems before they turn into big problems. Always focused on solutions, not problems. When it comes to work late, how can I help you be on time? Somebody starts cursing, how can I help you say dag nabbit, gee whiz, and golly gosh? Somebody makes mistakes, how can I help you dot your I's? Somebody doesn't get enough work done, how can I help you get more work done? Always focus on the solutions. And then the people who won't let you help them will reveal themselves as hopeless low performers. And they should be off the team because low performance should not be an option. Step 8 is do more for some people and less for others based on what they deserve. Treat everybody like a special case. And if you get those low performers off the team, then try to be flexible and generous with everybody else. My advice is first think, am I willing to do something different? Can I be a better leader? Step 2, set aside an hour a day for managing upfront in advance before anything goes right, wrong, or average. Step 3, make a list of your direct reports and start thinking about what do I need to talk to this person? And please stay in touch with me, Bruce T at Rainmaker Thinking. Chris, did we get any questions in the chat that you can give me to answer, or should I talk for 400 more seconds?
Sure. Debbie did ask, what were the 8 areas it cost everyone by not practicing the fundamentals?
Yeah, so this is the cost analysis. Are there problems that are occurring that never should have occurred, right? Unnecessary problems. And by the way, in general, the biggest gift you can give your people is avoiding unnecessary problems. So unnecessary problems, problems that get out of control that should have been solved easily, resources that are not well planned, so they're squandered and have to be recouped, people going in the wrong direction for days, weeks, or months so that you have to do rework. Rework is the enemy, especially if you don't have time. Low performers who are hiding out, collecting a paycheck. Mediocre performers who start thinking they're the high performers because nobody's telling them where they can do better. High performers who feel unrecognized and start thinking about leaving. and managers who should be delegating work, doing it themselves instead of delegating. Those are the 8 cost vectors that tie directly to undermanagement. If you have those costs, mark my words, you can find the sources. The source will be undermanagement behind the screen. Chris, do we have more?
All right. So yes, we do have one that says tips to help a new supervisor navigate their new role to help establish boundaries with their direct reports that used to be their peers.
Yeah. So one, if you send me an email, I'll send you the 27 challenges managers face. The first 4 challenges are the new manager challenges, but I'm going to give you a really simple model. Some people think, oh, well, I'm in charge, nothing to see here. I'm just one of the team. They soft pedal their authority. Don't do that. Some people show up and they're like, I'm in charge now. There's a new sheriff in town. Don't do that either. And some managers, they think, well, gosh, I have so much to learn before I can really take charge. So they want to learn first and then take charge. My advice is take charge by learning. Start scheduling one-on-ones where you ask questions. Hey, what do you do? How do you do it? Show me, what should I know about your role and your job and your tasks and your responsibilities and your projects? Take charge by learning. And by the way, it's never the wrong thing to do to ask questions. But what will happen is, if you take charge by learning, so you should have a team huddle. Hey, I'm in charge. Here's why. Here's how I'm going to manage. I'm going to have regular team huddles. I'm going to have regular one-on-ones, and then start having one-on-ones and start learning about what each person does. And what will happen is soon you'll know enough that you'll start to have some advice to give. And when do you stop learning? Whenever you're ready to start dying. Don't stop learning. Keep learning. Inconsistent performers. It's funny. What I often find is managers, they start, working really closely with someone because the person's not performing. All of a sudden, it turns out, well, when I'm helping you, then you can perform. And then when I'm, okay, you're doing a good job, then I step back, you stop performing. What that person's telling you is either, well, I only work hard when you're looking over my shoulder, or that person's telling you, I need a lot more direction. I need a lot more guidance. And almost always, inconsistent performer is either wants to, only work when you're looking over their shoulder, or they just need a heck of a lot more guidance, direction, and support. And you need to meet with them, every day or twice a day. And then you have to make a business decision about that. Let's see. The moniker, you earn respect, isn't always the best advice. Again, I think the best way to earn respect is also the best way to develop respect and to behave in a way that demands respect. And that is, hey, I got the job. And so, my first job is to learn from you about everything you're doing and to do everything I can to help you do more, better, faster. And frankly, do everything I can to help you earn more for yourself and your family. Do everything I can to help you avoid unnecessary problems. You never have to put your foot down to earn respect. You have to be consistent and thorough. And again, in the most command and control environment I can think of, the military, leaders build respectful relationships by being the best coaching style leaders, by being in dialogue, by being the one who can help you stay alive and keep your colleagues alive, help you do more, better, faster, and do it well. So, I'm sorry, what's the end of this statement? Management up front. Manage up in advance before anything goes right, wrong, or average. Guide, direct, support, and coach people every step of the way. Make sure they're going in the right direction, and you'll have a lot fewer unnecessary problems to fix. So this has been awesome. These are great questions. We're getting to the end of our time, so I need guidance from Chris. But let me say this. My email address is brucet@rainmakerthinking.com. There's going to be a closing slide. There's going to be a post-seminar survey. Please respond to it, and then you'll get you'll get some stuff. At least I know we're going to send some digital assets, and I'll probably be tempted to give you a whole lot and keep my office busy sending you stuff. But thanks to all of you for giving me some of your time. What a privilege. And thanks again to TTA. Thanks to John, to Chris, to Eliza. Thanks to Maria Melfa. Thanks to the whole TTA world.